Hello, YouTube. This is Hunter Search. Let's talk new cards. Let's talk new cards. We are pretty early in DZ-11's reveal cycle. So today I want to go over the stream reveals for Vairina, but I also want to go over everything else that's been revealed so far for DZ-11. And then going forward, we'll just do 2 reveal videos a week, talking about the stuff after each stream, and then also covering any cards of the day that happen between streams. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so we're gonna be using Freedom Duo for this because it's like because we don't have Cardfight Coalition anymore. It's the only place that like really gathers like only web page that gathers like stream reveals in one thing. So like it's what makes it easiest for me. Even though the way Freedom Duo writes the effects is always a bit jank. But first up, we have Mr. Arts Vairina. So we knew baseline that this thing was getting plus 1k for every. It was putting everything in your drop into its original dress, and then it was getting plus 1k for every one of those. Could get a crit, and retired itself. And then the battlefield got the crit. There were a lot of details left unknown, like are you going to be able to just put in 4 Aparigias from your drop and draw 4? Is that going to be allowed? Is that what we're doing? I think most reasonable people understood that that was not going to be happening, and that did not happen. But there's some stuff here that was not known from the anime, with the first effect, in fact. So the crossover dress conditions are a Trickstar and 1 or more prayer dragons with different names from each other. Then auto, during your turn, when this card gets discarded from your hand, you put into soul, and then you search your deck and discard 1 talisman, and then shuffle. So that's the Trickstars, and that's all the other Vairinas. That effect being on this card is insane because it's like, oh, okay, so this is, what if we put Carino effect on like a boss card? Like you get a soul, you deck thin 1, you get all your drop zone access effects get access to one of your pieces, so it makes things super consistent. Like wow, that effect is crazy, and we didn't know about that at all. Then when it's placed on rearguard circle from crossover dress, during this turn, the auto effects of your original dress placed by this effect cannot be activated, and then you put all cards from your drop into this card's original dress. So you don't get to do the draw 4 thing. You're only going to get the auto becomes original dress effects for the things that you put in from the field, which is fine. It would have been a bit scary to have like, oh yeah, just get everything. Like it just way too many effects resolving, man. I don't think we're ready for that. It might have been like fine overall balance wise, but like it's one of those things that like would continue to scale with future original dress effects, and like that was probably a design nightmare they did not want to deal with. So this is what we get instead. There is like 1 original dress that you can get from drop that still works with this. The one that gives a continuous, that gives the outer dress an auto, that will not get turned off by this, so you can put that in from drop, which is pretty cool. That gives your Vairina a bit extra power, which is neat. And then from there, it also has this other continuous effect that we didn't know about from the anime, which is when it leaves the rearguard circle, if it goes anywhere other than drop, you put all the cards from this unit's original dress into the drop. Which is really important because it means that like when you get hit by a bind or an imprison or whatever, you aren't losing your entire drop zone to that alternative zone as well. It's just you're losing the Arch Vairina itself to whatever alternative zone, but all the things that were under it get to go safely into the drop zone, which is very nice. And then the big offensive effect that we knew about from the anime. When this card cross overdress state attacks, it gets power plus 10k, plus 1k for each of its original dress. Then during this turn, if it stands by a card ability, you can give it an additional crit plus 1, and and if you do, it retires itself at end of turn. So like the crit gain is optional, which means if you have like a bunch of Trickstar and Swendies in the original dress, you can just choose to not gain the crit, and it'll stay on the field, and you'll still have your Trickstar and Swendies. Not of much use against, say, Bafsarga, because it's still going to, because like you can only get protection in Vairina at the moment from targeting. You can't get protection from retiring unless you're running ladder. So you're always going to be vulnerable to Bav's front row retire, which is quite unfortunate. And also vulnerable to the Dragon Empire Ace unit is important to note. But yeah. Moving on from there, we have the other triple rare the deck is receiving, Trickstar and Swendi. This is a Talisman and a Prayer Dragon, very critically. Is 5k power, 5k shield, and then on rear, deck, or drop, in all those zones, it is treated as Trickstar. So you can get off your ride line, and you can use it for fulfilling overdress and crossover dress. Then when it's chosen as original dress for crossover dress, this unit is treated as a total of 2 cards, 1 Trickstar and 1 Prayer Dragon. So you get to basically turn crossover dress into 1 material, which like fixes a lot of problems. But also, when any of your units gets attacked, you can move this from your original dress onto the Guardian Circle, and it gets guard plus, it gets shield plus 5,000, which is really good. It basically makes it so that the card you're losing to do the crossover dress is not an actual card you're losing, because it's just a shield you can use from there. Unless you're against something that is able to like clear the crossover dress before attacking, like say you don't have enough Aragia on this crossover dress and you're against Bav, for example, like that's going to be the big one. The fact that it can the from original dress guard can be used on any attack is also pretty nice. It means that like if you say have an Arse with a bunch of Swendies under it, the option of swinging into the Arse to force guard out of your opponent's hand, or they lose their bunch of shield from Swendies, that's not a real option, because they can just like, if like typically when you're doing that sort of line, it's like a small swing going at that, but like you can just freely guard that with the Swendies from the original dress, so it's not even really a problem. And then it has a very similar continuous to Arceus, where if it's in a card's original dress, and that card gets sent into deck or bind zone, you put all the original dress from that unit into the drop instead, which is pretty fantastic. It doesn't protect you from like some forms of alternative removal. Like it won't protect you from being that card being prisoned, but it'll protect you from most of the alternative forms of removal, which is still very nice. Then we have double rare Blaze Maiden, grade 1. When this enters a rearguard circle, you EB3 and add back a Vairina from your drop, and then if you have a grade 3 or greater Nirvana Vanguard, you can retire it and call Prayer Dragon from your drop. So like this is just worse Cindy is the thing. Like this card, what this card does is pretty solid in a vacuum. However, Cindy exists and is way better at this job of getting back Vairinas. Yeah. So like this, like if Cindy gets hit, then like this is the fallback option, or like it's the budget option if you can't afford Cindy's. But at current, it's like there's no real reason to run this over Cindy, and you don't really have that many slots for non-Prayer Dragons and non-Talismans. So those slots are just gonna go to Cindy. And then the rare support is very interesting. It's a grade 1 that has on rear or on Guardian, if you have a grade 3 or greater Nirvana Vanguard, all of your grade 0 units with Talisman get shield plus 5,000. So this turns your Swendies into 50k shields, which is very good. Like this is the sort of card that into a matchup that that doesn't clear your back row, you just get insane value from this card. Just absolutely nuts value from this card. However, like, it's like you don't have room for this card, you have no way to dig for this card, and you have no way to get this card back from the drop zone. So it's like, we can't really justify this in the deck, probably. Like, there's just not the room for it, unfortunately. But it is what it is. Like, this card would be pretty sick if there was room for it. But there isn't room for it. And yeah, that's it for the Nirvana stuff. This stuff seems pretty impressive. The card from Original Dress with Swendy in particular seems really, really good. As a big vulnerability to Bav, because that gets around the targeting protection that the deck currently has. And you also have to be wary of Vergilla. So you, like, against Vergilla, you have to have Operagia under everything at all times. And you have to recall your crossover dresses every turn, even if one lives, because like, it's just way too bad if, like, you give your opponent to the opportunity to take stuff out of rotation. Like, if you only have one Vairina in rotation and it gets taken out by a Vergilla buy, like, that's super bad. Ars Vairina itself is not super good on the turn 3 because you typically won't have enough drop for it to hit good numbers. So you'll definitely want something like Mirrors. Mirrors also doubles as a really good turn 2 play as well, since you only need to put it over the one card now, and you draw a card when it attacks and it gets plus 10k, and the card you overdress on top of can guard from there. So, like, you get, like, pretty good value out of that card on turn 2, and it's a good turn 3 body, gets solid power. So, like, there's good stuff going on there, so you probably want to be running Mirrors still. It seems solid. It definitely does seem solid. It seems like it has, like, a decent enough early game. The late game power scaling feels really, really crazy. And, like, your Vanguard is just always going to have 3 drives because of Vairina, which is really strong. So, like, it seems actually pretty solid. They fixed a lot of the issues that the deck fundamentally had before. So yeah, I would not be surprised to see this doing pretty well. But the Bav matchup seems pretty scary. And we'll just have to see how the other matchups end up shaking out. Having access to a retire whole board with Vairina, if you put in the 5 materials, that option being available is pretty nice. Like, it gives you some flexibility to, like, force certain decks to have to refill their board or take out, like, shield value that is being stored on the board, which is all pretty good stuff. So yeah. It seems pretty solid. I would not be surprised to see it perform. Okay, so let's go over the other set 11 stuff. So let's Lianorn. So of course Traumend. It's always in unison dress. It's just always in unison dress. Your rearguard Lianorns get boost and grade -2. And then when it attacks without a boost, you stand all your back row, boost with them. And then if it's boosted by 3 or more, you CB1, EB2, get drive +1, then get to either stand 2 in your back row, or if your opponent is at grade 3 or higher, you get to restand a rearguard and Lianorn herself. They both get power plus 10,000 and drive -3, and then you can shove another Lianorn from your rearguard or hand into soul for an additional drive, so you get 4 drives total. Much better base Lianorn than the deck had before. Obviously, it makes going second much better. And, like, getting the extra drive without it was like a discard before, right? Is very nice. And then just turning on all your unison dress stuff right away is also very, very nice. Including more. That when it enters rear guard, you okay. So like this is a really good early game effect. When it's placed on rear, you get to reveal a unison dress card from your hand, or if you have a Vanguard with unison dress, you CB one, draw one, and then you can Soul Blast one to call out a plant token. So like replace itself, also gets a plant token onto the board. Like super solid early game effect. And then its second effect is if your Vanguard is in unison dress and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it's Rosarium Fairy. It's Rosarium Fairy. Everyone give it up for Rosarium Fairy. Woo! I hate Rosarium Fairy. I think Rosarium Fairy is one of the biggest design mistakes that the era has made. And it's infuriating that they would print a second one. Thankfully, Lianorn Masks can't use it. And Trawmen cannot stand two Rosariums. So like the second Trawmen swing is not going to have the stupid high power pumped up by Silver White and Cinceret. But still, it's the much higher consistency on getting your Rosariums is still very, very scary. Not a fan. Then we have the new ride line. So the Rectina is when rode upon by Grade 3 with Lianorn in its name. You get to reduce the cost of your auto by 1 CB, and it has boost and intercept on the rear while you're in unison dress. And then the Grade 1 is you reveal Trawmen from your ride deck when it's rode upon to call plant token. And then when it's boosting in your Vanguards in unison dress, it gets plus 5k. So like this ride line is, you're probably still just going to use the Zorga ride line or the Roroa ride line. This does not seem better than those, so you're probably still going to stick with those. It is definitely better than Lianorn's old ride line, but like it's not super great still. It's not fantastic. And then we have Krysrain. So Krysrain Cadenza is mostly old Krysrain with 2 key changes. Key change number 1 is that it gets a 4th effect when you have the full board of different names, which is at end of turn you get to bounce a unit, and then Divine Skill. After the battle of this attacks a grade 3 and above, you can Soul Blast 1, return any number of rear guards back to your hand, and then you call 1, and you do Divine Skill thing where it copies Krysrain's power and critical. So this has the result of you can now do 5 attacks on your Divine Skill turn, because you can just go, okay, I'm just not going to bounce the stuff I actually need on my field. For that stuff, like you keep a, like say you keep a Francet on the field with a Rochelle, then you can go Rochelle in, draw a card, and restand the Francet. The extra bounce at end of turn is also super nice, because like between Rochelle restanding your Francet and that effect, you are going to be bouncing 3, and then 1 more card. The Rochelle is going to be going from field into your soul anyways. So like you are clearing 4 of your 5 board positions by default, which is a pretty great place to be. It's pretty awesome. And of course on the Divine Skill turn, you're just going to get to clear everything off the board, because like even the thing that you call off of the thing you call off of the Divine Skill, you're going to be able to go on your second. You're going to swing with that first, then swing with your second your second Francet swing that you restore with Rochelle, and then Francet is going to bounce the Divine Skill, attack her back to hand, then end of turn procs, and you bounce the Francet back to hand. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff. I like this Krysrain retrain a lot. And then the support grade 2 Ormel is also very, very good. On place, you can optionally soul charge 1. Then if you have a grade 3 or greater Krysrain Vanguard, you get to give one of your units plus 5k. Then you can optionally CB1, draw a card, and this unit gets plus 5k. Then the important part is once per turn, if you have a grade 3 or greater Krysrain Vanguard, you can EB3 to revive a non-sentinel grade 1 from your drop. So this makes it really easy to keep your Rochelles in rotation, and like there's a bunch of other stuff you can get good value from on this. So it's really, really fantastic. And you're going to be running normal orders in here anyways, because high 5 is completely cracked. So like that condition is not particularly difficult. Like high 5 is already super cracked, and is like even more cracked in a divine skill deck. So like it's just like there's no world where you're not running that. So it's just super, super good. Then some cards of the day. So Storycha, this is one of the cycles they're doing this set. These grade 1s that when they're placed on rearguard from hand, you can discard a card, draw a card, and then if your Vanguard's grade is lower than your opponent's Vanguard, during this turn, this unit gets power plus 2k. These cards are kind of weird because like they seem like the grade comparison thing. Actually, no, this translation is actually wrong. This is yeah, it's equal to or less than. It's equal to or less than for that effect. Yeah. So these cards are weird because they're very clearly like the grade comparison thing is like, okay, this is supposed to be like a going second tool, right? But like the power gain isn't anywhere near enough. And like, yeah, I get it. They're commons, but like like I don't know. Like if these had more power gain, they might have something going for them. But like as is, they're just nowhere near good enough. Then this grade 3 Storycha card that is on Rear Guardian. If you play an order this turn, power plus 5k, shield plus 5k. Definitely not anywhere near good enough to see play. Then we have an Argo Siren. Grade 1. When your other unit attacks and it's the 5th battle this turn. Is it 5th battle exactly? Yeah, it's 5th battle. Exactly. Okay. You put this into Soul, and then during this battle, your opponent cannot play Blitz orders. That seems a bit too specific to be useful. I don't imagine this actually makes the cut in Argo Siren. Like, I've played against Argo Siren a few times. I wouldn't say I'm super familiar with how the deck plays, but like I know Argo Siren has some really good cards recently, and this is not of that caliber. And restricting Blitz orders only does not seem like it's good enough. Alright, so, that's the cards of the game for other games. Okay, moving on from there. More cards of the day. So this, we did not know this card was a cycle at the time when this initially got revealed, but this card immediately caught my eye. So this is a grade 1 for Keter. That when it's placed on Guardian Circle, you can EB3, and for each grade of the attacking unit, this card gets shield plus 5,000. So like against an attacking grade 3 Vanguard, it's going to be a 20k shield. Against like many of the grade 2 attackers in the game, like Yugamashot, it's going to be a 15k shield. If you're against a Stride deck or a grade 4 deck in general, you can use this as a 25k shield there. And then, of course, if you're against Tree, this gets to be a 55k shield. Now, we now know from later cards of the day that this is a cycle that, like, every nation is getting. And this actually, I could really easily see this card making the cut in certain decks. Because, like, okay, like, this sort of shield is, like, really, really good. It's a really high shield value. But the one issue with it, of course, is that one, you need space for that sort of card in your deck. You need to not be so engine heavy that you don't have room for this. But two, it costs 3 energy. So you need to be a deck that like is not really using its energy for anything else, to be able to like run enough of this to see it consistently. But if you're running enough of to see it consistently, you also need to be able to use it multiple times, or just the multiples are just going to be dead draws. So like it needs a pretty specific type of deck. However, in that deck, it seems quite good. Then we have New Dog. You cannot ride this card, and it cannot be normal called onto the rearguard circle. 15k power. Sorry. Um, uh, Houndraiser doesn't actually have all that many ways to superior call, so this doesn't seem super great there. This feels like a card we would have gotten in like 2022. Like, it's hard to imagine a deck being this down bad for 15k and running this card at current. Like, I can't really think of any Keter deck where that would line up super well. But it's alright. It's okay. Yeah, I have a tough time imagining a deck that would really want to use this. But it's an alright card. Oh, right, it's a grade 2. It's not even a grade 1. It's a grade... I forgot it's a grade 2. I forgot it's a grade 2. I was thinking about it. That it's way worse as a grade 2. Like, as a grade 1, it's like, oh, 15k booster is actually, like, super solid. But as a grade 2, that's, like, mid as hell. That is not worth that restriction. Yeah, no way. No shot. That's not fitting into anything. And then we have another dog. Also at common, grade 1, AK, put into soul, and choose one of your grade 3 rear guards. It gets power plus 5k. Way too specific. And the fact that it does this as an act and not like an end of battle auto is really bad. Yeah, just not good at all. Alright, and then this is the prison stream. Okay, so Clear Light. So Clear Light is act on Vanguard or rear. Once per turn, you get to imprison an opponent's rear guard, and then if you didn't imprison anything, your opponent has to imprison something from their drop. I actually really like this effect. So like as prison currently is, you really need the drop imprison so that you don't just auto lose to decks that mirage their board. And that's what a lot of the best modern prison support does anyways. So you have to go back to like older, worse cards to get from field prisons for the most part. However, it's still useful to be able to clear your opponent's board, especially in current format. Like being able to clear like Ezerers or horses off the board and into the prison so your opponent can't use them to guard is still super useful, but you still want your cards to be able to imprison from drop. So this card being imprison from field, but there's nothing on the field to imprison from drop instead, is super good. I really like that versatility, and the fact that it works on rear as well is super, super nice. Then it has the same effect as original grade 3 Seraph, where it's when it attacks and your opponent's doing more in prison. It doesn't get the power plus 10k for having one in prison, but it's like basically the same thing. If your opponent's doing more in prison, it gets power plus 10k, drive plus 1. And it gets power plus 10k on rear as well, so it's a decent rear guard attacker. And then at the end of the battle, if it's on rear, you shove it into soul and you draw a card. And then when this card gets soul blasted for the cost of your Vanguard's ability, so Pure Light, until the end of your opponent's next turn, your opponent until the end of your opponent's next turn, you get the effect of when your opponent calls a unit card by the ability of prison, that unit's auto ability do not activate from that call. So thankfully that auto, when we first saw this card in the anime, there was a fear that this might extend to the autos in the battle phase of anything called from the prison. Thankfully it does not do that. That would be a bit much. This is still fairly restrictive. It stops you from like reactivating like on places that give you resources, give you cards in hand, which was always like an annoying thing about how prison functioned. So being able to turn that off is really, really nice. You don't get that until after you go into Pure Light, of course. But yeah, actually no, you can get it on Clear Light still, because Clear Light does soul blast itself. So you can like put Persona Ride and like do that if you don't have the Pure Light. But like if you don't have the Pure Light, you're losing. Like it's like yeah. And it's cool to see that when Bushiroad is designing for a deck where like it doesn't have to worry about Persona Ride concerns, because the deck in question is going into a grade 4 turn 4. they do make these Vanguards, these Rideline Vanguards, that are also really good on rear, really solid on rear. Like this card seems solid enough that I could see prison decks running extra copies in main deck. That gives you the possibility of doing the auto lock more than once, which if a matchup goes long might be necessary. But it also gives you more of those drop imprisoners. But in this case, it's one that that can also take from field if there's something on field that you want to take. So that's pretty nice. Then the other triple rare the deck got is this grade 2. When it's placed on rear, your opponent imprisons 1 from drop, and then if 2 or more have been imprisoned from drop, you can counterblast 1 draw card. So very similar to Citrus, I think it is, the restander, where it's a imprison from drop that also gives you a draw 1, which is very, very nice. And then on Rear Guardian, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, and your opponent has 1 or more in prison, it gets shield plus 5,000, and if there are 3 or more, power plus 5k, shield plus 5k. So this is a 15k shield if your opponent isn't clearing out their prison. And then it's also like a 15k attacker. As an attacker, this is definitely very mid. It's not the sort of thing you want on your front row going into combat. Like you want your citruses and your penetrates and like now your clear lights, because clear light is a way better attacker than this. But the on place seems pretty solid. Not sure if it's quite good enough to see play, but like it seems solid. And like the 15k shield into decks that like can't really afford to clear out their prison is very, very good. Yeah. And then we have this double rare grade 1 that when it's placed on rear and there's a prison in your order zone, you look at top 7, and you get to add a Seraph from among them to your hand. And if you revealed a card, if you add a card, you have to discard 1 from your hand. And then on boost, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard and there are 2 or more in the prison, it's a 13k booster. It seems pretty alright, especially for builds that are running the main deck clear lights, because it's like, okay, this can find you pure lights, or it can find you clear light, who is a card that it will imprison stuff and be a solid attacker. So it seems like alright. Not sure if it'll see play, but if it see play, it'll be in a deck that's running a bunch of main deck clear lights, I think. Just so that you have more targets. This sort of like free filter card is always feels like pretty solid to have. So yeah, it's like always good for deck thinning to have this sort of like card that's just like, I place it on rear, I just get to take something out of my top 7. Even if I don't even end up adding that card to my hand, I can just add it in and immediately discard the card I added to just deck thin 1 for no cost. Then we have a new grade 3. When placed on rear, counterblast 1, prison 2 from your opponent's rears, and then if there are 3 or more in your opponent's prison for this turn, this card gets power plus 5k. This is definitely a low rarity card. This does not seem worth it at all. Then we have the new ride line. So new grade 2, when placed on Vanguard, and you have a prison in order zone, you Soul Blast 1, reveal grade 3 Viscera from your ride deck, draw 1, and then your opponent has to imprison 1 from hand. So it's the same as the old grade 2, except you also draw 1. So it's just strictly better. And it gives you an actual plus on the ride line. So that's very, very nice. On rear, it also has a power plus 5k effect if your opponent has 2 or more cards, imprisoned cards, which is okay, but like not anything you're going to be running extra copies in main deck for. Then the grade 1 is when it's placed on rear. When it's placed on Vanguard, sorry, you reveal grade 3 Seraph from your ride deck, and then you search your deck for the new prison from your deck or hand and put it directly into the order zone. And then if you shuffle if you search the deck, and if you place from hand, you draw a card. And then on rear, it can counterblast 1 to imprison 1 from your opponent's rear guards, and it gets power plus 2k. So yeah, like you don't have to rest. The new prison doesn't have the rest cost, and this puts it directly into play anyway. So even if it had a cost, it would be ignoring it. So, and it has the like quality of life of, oh, if you play from hand, you draw a card. So you're never going minus because, oh, I opened the prison. That's never happening anymore. So just very nice. And the new prison is basically the same. The prison part of the prison is the same. You know, Soul Blast 1 to call out 1 from the prison, CB1 to call out 2. I'm a bit surprised they didn't add a Energy Blast mode to the prison. But they didn't. So that is good for prison as a deck. Like, not giving your opponent even more options to get stuff out of prison is ideal for them. And then it doesn't Soul Charge 3 on place anymore. However, it does have an effect in the order zone when an opponent's prison card is called to the rearguard circle, and you haven't Soul Charged this turn. You can choose to Soul Charge 1. So that the Soul Charge being optional is much nicer because like it means like you don't have to randomly lose cards from your deck if you don't want to, but you still have access to this Soul Charging so that you can get the soul you need for like Munas and stuff. And like the way this works is like, oh, okay, if I have Muna on the board, when my opponent does the thing that triggers Muna, I always have the option to just go Soul Charge 1 with Prison so that I can immediately Soul Blast 1 to pay Muna's cost, which is pretty nice. That's pretty cool. That's pretty good. And then we just have a couple more cards of the day. So we have... wait. This appears to be missing one. I am missing one. Give me a sec. There's one critical. I was missing a bit more than one, actually. But we got them all. We've got it all sorted out. So we have some Dragon Empire cards of the day. This is a grade 3. Soul Blast... it's the activate effect, Soul Blast 1. And during this turn... this card can attack your opponent's unit in the back row. Tejas was a sick card back in the day, but I don't think Tejas holds up in 2025. No, thank you. Then grade 2. When this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater, and there are no other rear guards in the same column as this unit, power plus 10k. That's like okay, man, but like you have to have no booster for this, and like. It's just kind of worse than Tifa. Like Tifa without Tifa's first effect, so it's like, why bother? And then we have the Varga support card. When this boosts and you have a grade 3 or greater Varga, during this battle, this unit gets power plus 2k, and at the end of the battle, retire this unit, energy charge 1. This is very mid. It might give you like an extra Shura resolution, but that's like about it. This is... it's definitely a common. It's definitely a common. Definitely a common. Okay, so then we have Brantgate. This is a grade 3 on Rear or Guardian. If your opponent has cards in Bind Zone, this unit gets power plus 5k, guard shield plus 5k. So like we're very clearly like doing like a cycle of cards for each nation where there's a grade 3 that gets power plus 5k, shield plus 5k, if they have like a nation relevant condition fulfilled. But these cards are just not, they're not getting enough power or shield to be worth considering. Grade 2, when it attacks and you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, you discard a set order from your hand and it gets power plus 10k. Not the worst thing in the world, but probably not worth making the cut. And then this is when we found out that Keter card was actually part of a cycle, because this is the Brantgate version. When it's placed onto Guardian Circle, you EB3, and for each grade of the attacking unit, it gets shield plus 5k. As I said with the previous one, in the right sort of deck that like its resources line up in the right way and its deck space lines up in the right way, this card can be really, really good. So I like this card a lot. Then for Lyrical, we have a grade 3. If you don't have any other rears, this cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effect. That's cool, I guess, but like it doesn't do anything else, so like not worth playing. Then we have another grade 3. This one is when it attacks a Vanguard, you Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1 to get power plus 5k for each grade of the opponent's Vanguard. which it's a bit weird in this day and age to be paying CB for a pure power gain effect. However, it's like 15k power is nothing to scoff at. That is really good power gain. So like this card isn't too bad. But also it's one of those very funny cards where like, oh, I'm fighting Tree. This card is now a nuclear bomb. I would like to get plus 50k power. I would like to swing for 63k solo. Thank you very much, Mr. Tree. And also like against a grade 4 deck that stays on grade 4, this gets plus 20k for like 33 solo. Like the power gain this card does is actually pretty solid, and if you're a deck that like has the counterblast to spare, like I can see this card being pretty okay. So like I do actually want to keep my eye on this card because this card seems pretty alright. And then we have that grade 1 cycle, the really bad one. Placed on rare from hand, discard a card, draw a card if your Vanguard's grade is equal to or lower than your opponent's. Power plus 2k. It's not very good. It's definitely not good enough. Then we have next card of the day with some Dark States cards. So this is a generic double rare that Dark States is receiving. And this is during your turn, if your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, and you've put a card, if any card from either player's field, I believe. The Freedom Duo writing of this is really bad. This is really poorly written on Freedom Duo. But it's basically if a card has been put into deck or into soul by your card's effect this turn, it gets power plus 5k, which is... Power plus 5k isn't great. I kind of wish this was power plus 10k. That would be a lot better. But then the second effect, that's the real juice here. So when placed on Guardian Circle, if there are 5 or more cards in your damage zone, or your this was also incorrectly written on Freedom Duo. That's crazy. Yeah, because that's just completely, it's just wrongly translated. Thank God I know some Japanese. Thank God I know some Japanese and know that the ka there is in fact an or. Yeah, thank God for that. But like it's if when it's placed on Guardian Circle, if you're at 5 or more damage, or your Vanguard was hit by an attack that turn, you can Soul Blast 1 and give this shield plus 10k. So this is a 15k shield. 15k shields are always like, if their condition is pretty reliable, then like they're always something that's worth keeping an eye on, because like extra 15k shields in a deck is always super solid. This card is very smartly designed, because like there's been previous cards with this, if your Vanguard was hit by an attack already this turn, this gets more shield cards in the past. But this one in particular is designed in such a way where like once you hit the part of the game where you can't take damage anymore, you still always have the effect online. So like this is a pretty reliable 15k shield. And what you might notice when looking through the Dark States card pool is they don't have a reliable 15k shield among their generics. Like other than the Carbuncle, of course, because the Carbuncle is a different thing. You only get to do it once a game. This is something that you can do multiple times a game. It's just very reliably a 15k shield. If like your soul is a free enough resource for you to be using, just very, very nice. And also like typically when they print these 15k shields, they're on grade 1s, so you can't like commit to the board early game and then intercept with it as a 15k. But this one is a grade 2, which is super, super nice. I like this card quite a bit. And I will be interested to see if it lines up particularly well into the Time Dragon line we're getting on the Thursday stream. Then for the other Dark States cards, we have this grade 1 rare that when your Vanguard is attacked and you use a Blitz order, you can Soul Blast 1 and bind this card from the Soul to give your Vanguard an extra 5k. That's okay, probably not worth running, but it's a decent enough effect. It's unique enough, like it's okay. Then this is the Dark States member of that cycle. It should have been a Direful Doll. I would never pay that energy cost in dolls, but like should have been a Direful Doll. And then this last grade 1 is once per turn when you play a normal order and you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and reveal up to 1 card with the same name as the card played. It's way too specific and doesn't do anything else. But this is a cute enough card. I don't know. I don't see this card being really good in anything. And then our most recent cards of the day. So first up, we have Purity Scalar Angel. And this one is interesting to me. Because this is a grade 3 that when it attacks a Vanguard and you have 2 or less rear guards, it gets power plus 10k. Now, this is just a low rarity generic swap card. And like they just print these like power gain cards with some condition that we haven't printed before all the time. But like typically the idea is we want to make something that like makes sense with what decks in that nation are typically doing. And like if we had like some Shadow Paladin-esque decks that like actually play like Shadow Paladin, that would be one thing, but we don't in Keter. It's really just PBO that plays like traditional Shadow Paladin. We don't have any deck like that. So like what is the expectation that we just Mirage a bunch? Or here's a possibility. We don't really know what the major support for Keter is going to be in this set. So there is a real possibility that Keter just gets a new Rhythine in this set. And it's it has the Shadow Paladin playstyle if you retire your own stuff in like battle phase. And then this probably wouldn't make the cut, like a grade 3, 23k swinger, like probably not going to make the cut. There's probably better things you can be doing. Like there's definitely better stuff you can be doing, but like this condition makes me go, maybe we're getting a Shadow Paladin type deck in Keter as a new Rhythine this set. That could happen. That's a possibility. But like we do also have like new Reziel and Neil support to print this set, so like maybe not, but we'll see. We will see. Then we have this grade 2 that when it attacks and you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, and this card was played on rearguard by a card ability this turn, your opponent cannot intercept. Lots of conditions for a no power gain effect that only stops intercepts for 1 battle. Like there's anti-intercept is pretty good in the current format because like stuff like Heartluru and Vergilla get a lot of value out of their intercepts. But you kind of need your anti-intercept to last the whole turn. This is not very good. And then we have the Keter one of this cycle. The place on rare from hand, discard a card, draw a card, and if your Vanguard's grade is equal to or lower than your opponent's, power plus 2k. Like not good enough. Not very good cards. Yeah. So that's it. We're all caught up on DZ-11. I am quite liking what's going on with this set. There's some stuff that very much scares me. I don't like Lianorn. I really don't like Rosarium Fairy. Lianorn, I would be chill with Lianorn if Rosarium Fairy doesn't exist, but now there's a second one. So sorry, Lianorn, I'm gonna hate you for life. And yeah, we will be back on Thursday, talking about some more cards of the day, and also talking about the new incoming Gear Dragon ride line, which I am excited to see what that does. And hopefully the ride line for that deck it works generically with Gear Dragons, so that it can give Timestamping Dragon its own proper ride line. That thing they completely failed to do with Gargrex for Spinal Marquis. We'll see. See you guys then. This is Higher Surge, signing off.